In the heart of Chicago, where skyscrapers pierced the clouds and the hum of city life pulsed through the streets, Sarah Miller sat in the sterile waiting room of Northwestern Memorial Hospital. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead, casting a clinical glow on her anxious face. At 32, Sarah was a force in the tech world, having built a startup that revolutionized e-commerce analytics. Her wealth, amassed from years of coding late into the night and pitching to skeptical investors, afforded her a penthouse condo overlooking Lake Michigan. But none of that mattered now. Today, her focus was singular: the kidney match results for her boyfriend, Michael Thompson. Sarah and Michael had met 5 years ago at a charity gala in the Art Institute of Chicago. She'd been there to donate a hefty sum to a children's literacy program, her sleek black dress catching the light as she mingled with philanthropists. Michael, a charming graphic designer with a quick smile and warm brown eyes, had approached her at the dessert table, joking about the absurdity of tiny cupcakes costing more than his rent. His humor disarmed her, and soon they laughed over shared stories of growing up in the Midwest, Sarah in a quiet suburb, Michael in a rougher neighborhood on the South Side. He seemed unaffected by her wealth, drawn instead to her sharp wit and calm determination. Over time, their relationship deepened, built on late-night talks, weekend hikes in Starved Rock State Park, and a shared love for deep dish pizza from Lou Malnati's. But 6 months ago, everything changed. Michael's fatigue and frequent illnesses led to a diagnosis of kidney failure. Dialysis kept him alive, but a transplant was his only hope for an everyday life. Sarah, without hesitation, volunteered to get tested. She'd always been this giver in their relationship, funding Michael's art projects, covering his medical bills, even buying him a sleek new laptop when his old one died. To her, love meant sacrifice, and she was ready to give a part of herself to save him. Now, as she sat in the hospital, her fingers twisted the strap of her designer handbag. The waiting room smelled of antiseptic and stale coffee, and the clock on the wall ticked slowly. Across from her, Michael's mother, Linda, fidgeted with a worn tissue, her eyes red from worry. Linda had always been kind to Sarah, baking cookies during visits and praising her for saving Michael. Next to Linda sat Emily Carter, Sarah's best friend since their days at Northwestern University. Emily, a freelance photographer with a knack for capturing Chicago's gritty beauty, had been a constant support, organizing hospital visits and cheering Michael on through his treatments. The door swung open and Dr. Patel, a kind-faced nephrologist, entered with a clipboard. "Sarah, Michael, we have the results," he said, his voice steady but warm. Sarah's heart raced as she leaned forward, her hand finding Michael's. His grip was weak, his skin pale against her own. "Sarah, you're a 4-point match," Dr. Patel announced, a smile breaking across his face. "This is a miracle. You're a viable donor for Michael's transplant." Relief flooded Sarah, her eyes welling with tears. She turned to Michael, expecting to see joy, but his expression was unreadable, a flicker of something guilt, perhaps, passing through his eyes. Linda gasped, clutching Sarah's arm. "Oh, Sarah, you're an angel. You're saving my boy." Emily squeezed Sarah's other hand, her voice bubbling with excitement. "This is it, Sarah. You and Michael can finally build that future together. Marriage, maybe even kids." Sarah's cheeks flushed at the thought. Marriage had always been a distant dream, something Michael promised when the time was right. With this chance to save him, it felt closer than ever. She imagined their wedding in a quaint chapel by the lake, her parents retired teachers who lived in Naperville beaming from the front row. "I'd do anything for you, Michael," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Michael squeezed her hand back, his smile tight. "You don't have to do this, Sarah. It's a big deal." His words were gentle, but there was an edge, a hesitation that Sarah chalked up to his fear of burdening her. She shook her head, resolute. "I want to. We're in this together." As they left the hospital, the Chicago wind whipped through Sarah's hair, carrying the scent of the lake. She felt a surge of purpose, her heart swelling with love. She glanced at Emily, who was already typing on her phone, no doubt sharing the good news. "Hey, Emily," Sarah said, a playful idea forming. "You should make a vlog about this, our journey, Michael's recovery. People love a good love story." "They'd probably like, comment, and subscribe to your channel in droves." Emily laughed, nudging her. "You're right. Maybe I'll call it Love Saves Lives. Get ready to be a YouTube star." Sarah. Back at her condo that night, Sarah stood on her balcony, the city skyline glittering below. She thought of the surgery ahead, the pain she'd endure, the life she'd give Michael. It was worth it. Love was worth it. Little did she know the man she loved was already plotting to betray her, and the cost of her devotion would be her life. 6 months after the transplant, Sarah's life was a whirlwind of recovery and adjustment. The surgery had left her weaker, her body adapting to one kidney, but Michael was thriving. His color returned his energy back. They'd married in a small ceremony at a historic chapel in Evanston with Emily as maid of honor, and Linda sobbing through the vows. Sarah's proud but cautious parents whispered their concerns about Michael's dependence on her wealth, but Sarah brushed them off. Love, she believed, would conquer all. But love was a lie. Sarah returned early from a business trip to San Francisco one crisp October afternoon. Her startup had just secured a significant deal, and she was eager to surprise Michael with the news. She stepped into their condo, the scent of her favorite lavender candle mingling with something unfamiliar perfume, sharp and floral. The bedroom door was ajar, and there, tangled in the sheets, were Michael and Emily. Sarah's world tilted. Her heart pounded as she stood frozen, the grocery bag in her hand, slipping to the floor, apples rolling across the hardwood. "Michael." Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. He looked up startled, but his face quickly hardened into a smirk. Her hair mussed. Emily pulled the sheet over herself, her eyes glinting with defiance. "How could you?" Sarah's voice rose, trembling with rage. "I gave you my kidney, Michael. You said you'd rather die than let me hurt myself for you." She clutched her side where the scar from the surgery ached with the memory of her sacrifice. "You promised me forever." Michael sat up unfazed, his voice dripping with mockery. "Oh, Sarah, don't be so dramatic. That whole 'I'd rather die' thing, just a line to get you to donate, worked like a charm." He leaned back, arms behind his head, as if her pain was entertainment. "You really thought I loved you? A rich girl like you is so easy to play with." Sarah's knees buckled, her vision blurring with tears. She turned to Emily, her best friend since college, who'd shared late-night study sessions and dreams of the future. "Emily, you're my best friend. How could you do this?" Emily's lips curled into a sneer. "Friend? Please. You've always had everything money, success, Michael. I just took what I deserved." She slid closer to Michael, her hand possessive on his arm. "And don't even think about divorce. The headlines would destroy him. Man dumps kidney donor wife. The public would eat him alive." Sarah's rage boiled over. "I want a divorce, Michael. Now." Her voice was steel, but inside her heart was shattering. She'd given everything, her health, trust, and love, and it was all a lie. Michael's eyes narrowed, cold and calculating. "Divorce, no way. The only status I'll accept is widowed." His words hung in the air, chilling Sarah to her core. Before she could respond, Linda appeared in the doorway, her face twisted with greed. "You think you're special because you gave him a kidney," she spat. "You're nothing but a bank account to us." The room spun as Sarah's allergy to peanuts, a fact they all knew, became their weapon. Emily grabbed a jar of peanut butter from the kitchen, and Michael pinned Sarah's arms. No, Sarah screamed, struggling as Linda smeared the paste into her mouth. Her throat tightened, her lungs seizing as anaphylaxis took hold. Through her fading vision, she saw them smiling, calculating the millions they'd inherit from her estate. As Sarah's life slipped away, their betrayal crushed her. But in that final moment, a spark of defiance flared within her. She wouldn't let them win. A mysterious force born of her unyielding will to fight back pulled her consciousness from the void. She wasn't done yet. Death wasn't the end. It was the beginning of her revenge. Sarah Miller's world dissolved into darkness as the peanut butter coated her throat, her lungs clawing for air that wouldn't come. The Chicago condo, once a sanctuary of love with its sleek hardwood floors and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan, became her tomb. Michael Thompson, her husband of mere months, held her arms with a grip like iron, his brown eyes devoid of the warmth she'd once cherished. Emily Carter, her best friend since their Northwestern University days, stood by with a cruel smile, the jar of peanut butter in her hand, a weapon of betrayal. Linda, Michael's mother, hovered nearby, her face alight with greed, as she muttered about the millions they'd inherit from Sarah's estate, her wealth from years of building a tech empire. Sarah's body convulsed, her vision blurring as anaphylaxis consumed her. She'd given Michael everything, her love, her trust, even a kidney to save his life. 6 months ago, at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, she'd undergone the transplant surgery, her body scarred, but her heart full, believing it would bind them forever. They'd married in a quaint Evanston chapel, with Emily toasting their future and Linda sobbing through the vows. Sarah's parents, retired teachers from Naperville, had warned her about Michael's reliance on her money, but she'd dismissed them, blinded by love. As her pulse weakened, she saw the truth. Michael had played her from the start, using her devotion to secure her kidney and wealth. The pain wasn't just physical, it was the sting of betrayal, sharper than any scalpel. Michael's words from earlier that day echoed in her mind. That was to get your kidney, Sarah. Did you really think I loved you? Emily's sneer followed divorce would ruin him, and Linda's chilling addition widowed is better. They'd planned this knowing her severe peanut allergy would make her death look accidental, leaving them free to claim her fortune. Sarah's startup, which revolutionized e-commerce analytics, had made her a multimillionaire, and they wanted it all. As her consciousness faded, Sarah's thoughts turned to her parents, who'd always urged her to prioritize herself. She saw flashes of their quiet Naperville home where they'd read poetry together on Sunday mornings. She saw her childhood dog, a golden retriever named Max, chasing fireflies in the backyard. She saw the charity gala where she'd met Michael, his charming smile masking a predator's intent. Regret burned through her, regret for ignoring her instincts and trusting those exploiting her. But in that final moment, something extraordinary happened. A spark of defiance born of her unyielding will to fight back flared within her. Sarah wasn't ready to surrender. Her spirit, forged through years of overcoming startup failures and investor rejections, refused to let this be her end. As her heart stopped, a mysterious force, perhaps her own resolve, maybe a cosmic gift for her selflessness, pulled her back from the void. The darkness parted and Sarah's eyes snapped open, her body no longer in the condo but in a hospital bed, the familiar buzz of fluorescent lights overhead. She was back in Northwestern Memorial Hospital on the day of the kidney match results, 6 months before her death. Her breath caught as memories of her past life flooded in: the transplant, the marriage, the betrayal, the murder. She touched her side, no scar. Her body was whole, her kidney still hers. She'd been reborn, given a second chance to rewrite her fate. Tears welled in her eyes, not of fear, but of fury. Michael, Emily, and Linda had taken everything from her, but she'd be in control this time. Sarah sat up, her mind racing. The hospital room was just as she remembered: the antiseptic smell, the muted beeps of monitors, the clipboard on the wall with her name. Outside, Chicago's skyline glittered through the window, the city unaware of the battle brewing within her. She clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. This wasn't just a second chance, it was a reckoning. She'd loved Michael unquestioningly, but now her eyes were wide open. She'd trusted Emily, but now she saw her envy. She'd respected Linda, but now she knew her greed. Sarah Miller, tech mogul and once lovesick fool, was no more. A woman forged in betrayal was in her place, ready to dismantle those who'd destroyed her. The door creaked open and Dr. Patel entered, his kind face unchanged from her past life. He said, "Sarah, we have the results," holding the same clipboard. Sarah's heart pounded, but it wasn't with hope this time, it was with resolve. She knew what was coming and what she had to do. The game had changed, and she was no longer the pawn. Sarah Miller stood in the hospital corridor, the weight of her rebirth settling over her like a Chicago snowstorm, heavy, cold, and transformative. The memory of her death was vivid. Michael's smirk, Emily's sneer, Linda's greed as they forced peanuts into her mouth, knowing her allergy would kill her. But now, in this second life, Sarah was back on the day she'd learned she was a kidney match for Michael Thompson, 6 months before the transplant, the marriage, and the murder. Northwestern Memorial Hospital buzzed around her, nurses and scrubs hurrying past, the city's pulse faint through the thick windows. She was 32 again, her body unscarred, her wealth intact, and her heart hardened. In her past life, Sarah had been a fool for love. She'd met Michael at a charity gala 5 years earlier, his charm disarming her defenses. She'd funded his art projects, paid his bills, and believed his promises of forever. When his kidney failure was diagnosed, she'd volunteered for testing without a second thought, desperate to save him. The results had come in a 4-point match, a miracle, and she'd donated her kidney, enduring weeks of pain and recovery. They'd married, but the fairy tale crumbled. Michael and Linda mocked her sacrifice, saying, "You think donating a kidney means we owe you?" Emily, her supposed best friend, revealed her true colors, envious of Sarah's success and eager to claim Michael. Now reborn, Sarah saw it all clearly. Michael's love was a lie, a calculated ploy to secure her kidney and her millions. Emily's friendship was a facade driven by jealousy over Sarah's tech empire. Linda's warmth was a mask for greed. Sarah's parents had been right, Michael was a leech, and she'd ignored their warnings. But this time she wouldn't. She'd use her wealth, wit, and newfound clarity to protect herself and expose them. Dr. Patel approached, his clipboard in hand, just as he had in her past life. "Sarah, you're a 4-point match for Michael's transplant," he said, his eyes bright with hope. This could save his life. Michael sat beside her, his hand in hers, his face a mask of feigned concern. Linda, teary-eyed, clutched Sarah's arm, and Emily, ever the cheerleader, chirped, "This is amazing, Sarah! You can save him and build your future together, marriage the works." Sarah's stomach churned, but she forced a smile. She'd wept with joy in her past life, overwhelmed by the chance to save Michael. Now she saw the manipulation in his hesitation. "You don't have to do this," in Emily's overzealous encouragement. She remembered how she'd persuaded Michael to accept her kidney, even threatening self-harm to convince him. She'd been a lovesick idiot, but not anymore. "Michael," Sarah said, her voice steady, "if you don't want my kidney, I won't donate." The words felt foreign, powerful. Michael's eyes widened, a flicker of panic crossing his face. Linda gasped. "Sarah, what are you saying?" Emily's smile faltered, her phone slipping slightly in her hand. Dr. Patel looked confused but stayed silent. Michael's grip tightened on her hand, his voice sharp. "Who said you could get tested? I told you I didn't want this." His anger was familiar. Sarah had heard it in her past life, mistaking it for nobility. Now she saw it for what it was, fear of losing control. "You think you can guilt me into this?" he snapped. "I don't love you, Sarah. I was only with you for your money. A kidney won't trap me into marrying you." The words stung, echoing his betrayal in her past life, but Sarah didn't flinch. She met his gaze, her own eyes cold. "You're right, Michael. It's your choice. I won't force you." She turned to Dr. Patel, her voice calm. "Please shred the surgery application. I respect Michael's wishes." Linda's face reddened. "Sarah, you can't do this. He's your boyfriend." Emily jumped in, her voice sweet but edged with panic. "Sarah, come on. You don't mean that. You love him." Sarah pulled her hand from Michael's, standing tall. "I heard him. He doesn't love me. We're done." She walked away, her heels clicking on the hospital floor, her heart pounding with a mix of pain and triumph. As she reached the elevator, she lingered, her phone discreetly recording. She heard Michael's voice through the cracked door. "She's bluffing. She loves me too much to let me die." Emily's tone was nervous. "What if she's serious? We plan to get her kidney, marry her, then divorce her for half her money. If she backs out, we're screwed." Sarah's blood ran cold, but her resolve hardened. She stopped recording, her mind racing. She'd loved Michael unquestioningly, but now she saw his true nature. Emily's envy, Linda's greed, it was all laid bare. Back at her condo, Sarah stood on her balcony, the Chicago skyline a glittering reminder of her power. She wasn't the naive woman who'd died. She was reborn, and she'd make them pay. Sarah Miller strode out of the hospital corridor at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, her heels echoing on the polished linoleum, each step declaring her newfound resolve. The Chicago skyline loomed through the windows, its glittering towers starkly contrasting her turmoil. She had just torn up the kidney transplant application, refusing to donate to her boyfriend Michael Thompson after his callous admission, "I don't love you, Sarah. I was only with you for your money." Those words, echoing from her past life, had shattered her illusions. Reborn on the day of the kidney match results, Sarah was no longer the lovesick fool who'd given her kidney, her heart, and nearly her life to a man who'd betrayed her. In her previous life, Sarah had been blinded by love. She'd met Michael 5 years ago at a charity gala in the Art Institute of Chicago, his charm and easy smile drawing her in. As a tech mogul who'd built a multi-million-dollar e-commerce analytics startup, she'd funded his dreams, his graphic design projects, apartment medical bills, believing his promises of forever. When his kidney failure was diagnosed, she'd volunteered to be tested, desperate to save him. The 4-point match was a miracle, and she'd endured the surgery only to face betrayal. Michael, his mother Linda, and Sarah's best friend Emily Carter had mocked her sacrifice, saying, "You think donating a kidney means we owe you," their ultimate betrayal, murdering her with peanuts, exploiting her allergy, had ended her first life. But now reborn, Sarah saw their true faces. Standing by the hospital elevator, she'd overheard Michael and Emily scheming, get her kidney, marry her, then divorce her for half her fortune. The recording on her phone was proof of their deceit, and it fueled her determination. She wasn't just refusing to donate, she was reclaiming her life. As she stepped into the elevator, the doors closing on Michael's stunned face, Sarah felt a surge of power. She was no longer the naive woman who'd begged him to accept her kidney, even threatening self-harm to persuade him. This time, she'd play their game and win. Back at her upscale condo overlooking Lake Michigan, Sarah stood on her balcony, the city's wind carrying the scent of the lake. With its Willis Tower piercing the dusk, the skyline mirrored her rising strength. She called Maria her loyal housekeeper who'd been with her since the startup's early days. Sarah instructed Maria to pack up everything Michael had left there, her voice firm. Clothes, gadgets, anything he owns, I want it gone. Maria, a warm woman in her 50s with a knack for reading Sarah's moods, nodded. About time, Miss Sarah. I never liked how he treated you. As Maria sorted through Michael's belongings, most bought with Sarah's money, Sarah reflected on her past life. She'd ignored her parents' warnings, retired teachers in Naperville who'd seen Michael's dependence on her wealth. She'd dismissed Emily's subtle jabs, mistaking them for playful teasing. Emily, a freelance photographer who'd always envied Sarah's success, had hidden her resentment behind a facade of friendship. With her homemade cookies and tearful gratitude, Linda had been a master manipulator. Sarah's rebirth, sparked by her unyielding will to fight back, was her chance to right those wrongs. The doorbell rang, snapping Sarah out of her thoughts. Emily stood in the doorway, her auburn hair pulled into a messy bun, her eyes wide with feigned concern. Sarah, you can't be serious about not donating, she said, stepping inside without invitation. Michael's dying. You love him. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she kept her composure. Emily, he said he doesn't love me. I'm respecting his choice. Emily's face twisted, a flicker of panic betraying her act. You're just upset. Listen to this. She pulled out her phone, recording Michael's voice. I don't want Sarah to suffer. I'd rather die than let her go through surgery. Sarah recognized the manipulation, the same script from her past life designed to guilt her. Without a word, she took Emily's phone, deleted the recording, and returned it. We're done, Emily. Take Michael's stuff with you. She gestured to a black trash bag filled with his belongings by the door. Emily's mouth twitched, but she grabbed the bag. You're making a mistake, Sarah. You'll regret letting him die. Her voice dripped with venom, confirming what Sarah already knew. Emily's envy had turned her into a traitor. As Emily left, Sarah locked the door, her heart racing but her mind clear. She wasn't just cutting ties, she was setting a trap. Michael, Emily, and Linda thought they could manipulate her again, but Sarah was one step ahead this time. Sarah Miller sat at her condo's sleek glass desk, the Chicago skyline a glittering backdrop through her floor-to-ceiling windows. The recording she'd captured at Northwestern Memorial Hospital played on her laptop. Michael's voice cold and calculating. She's bluffing. She loves me too much to let me die. Emily's response, laced with worry, followed. What if she's serious? We plan to get her kidney, marry her, then divorce her for half her money. If she backs out, we're screwed. Sarah paused the audio, her fingers trembling, not with fear but with fury. Reborn, she'd vowed to dismantle the trio who'd murdered her in her past life, and this recording was her first weapon. Sarah had been a fool in her previous life, blinded by love for Michael Thompson. She'd met him at a charity gala, his charm masking his greed. As a tech mogul, her wealth from her e-commerce analytics startup had funded his lifestyle, but she'd seen it as love. When he needed a kidney, she donated without hesitation, enduring surgery and recovery only to face betrayal. Michael, his mother Linda, and her best friend Emily Carter had mocked her sacrifice, then killed her with peanuts, exploiting her allergy to claim her fortune. Her rebirth, a gift of her unyielding will, had given her a second chance to see their true natures. Now Sarah was no longer naive. Michael's admission in the hospital that he never loved her, that he was after her money, had confirmed her memories. Emily's envy, rooted in years of watching Sarah's success eclipse her own, had driven her to betray their friendship. Linda's greed had turned her maternal warmth into a facade. Sarah's parents, retired teachers in Naperville, had warned her about Michael, but she'd ignored them. This time she'd listen to her instincts and use her wealth and wit to fight back. The hospital confrontation had been her first move. By refusing to donate her kidney and tearing up the surgery application, she'd thrown Michael off balance. His anger, who said you could get tested, and Emily's panicked persuasion had revealed their desperation. The recording captured as she lingered by the hospital door was proof of their scheme. Sarah saved the file to a secure cloud drive, her mind racing with plans. She needed more than evidence, she needed to expose them publicly to turn their manipulation against them. Sarah's phone buzzed, and Maria, her housekeeper, called from the kitchen. Miss Sarah, I've packed all of Michael's things. What do you want to do with them? Sarah walked to the living room, where a single trash bag sat by the door. Donate what's usable to a shelter, she said. The rest goes to the curb. Maria nodded, her eyes gleaming with approval. Good for you. He never deserved you. Sarah smiled, grateful for Maria's loyalty. Unlike Emily, Maria had always been a faithful ally, seeing through Michael's charm from the start. As Sarah sorted through her next steps, her phone buzzed again, a text from Emily. "Sarah, please reconsider. Michael's sorry. Meet us at the hospital tomorrow." Sarah's lips curled into a cold smile. Emily thought she could manipulate her again, but Sarah was ready. She replied, "No meeting. I'm done." Then she blocked Emily's number, cutting another tie. She remembered her past life when Emily had played a fake recording to guilt her into donating, only to reveal her affair with Michael later. This time, Sarah wouldn't fall for it. She opened her laptop, pulling up her startup's financial records. Her wealth built through years of innovation was her greatest asset. She'd already stopped funding Michael's dialysis, a decision that felt both cruel and just. She'd paid for everything in her past life, believing it was love. Now she'd use her money to protect herself and expose them. She contacted her lawyer, a sharp woman named Rachel, who'd helped her navigate startup contracts. Sarah said, "I need to secure my assets and prepare for a potential legal fight. Michael and his family might try something." Rachel's voice was calm but firm. "Got it. I'll draft a plan to lock down your accounts and monitor any moves against you." Anything else? Sarah hesitated, then added, "Look into Michael Thompson, Linda Thompson, and Emily Carter. I want to know everything, finances, connections, anything suspicious." Rachel agreed, promising a report within days. As night fell, Sarah stood on her balcony, the Chicago wind carrying the distant hum of the city. The Willis Tower glowed, a symbol of her own resilience. She thought of her parents, who'd always urged her to prioritize herself. She'd call them tomorrow, reconnect, rebuild the bonds she'd neglected. For now, she focused on the trio who'd killed her. Michael thought she was bluffing, but Sarah was beginning. She'd expose their plan, turn their greed against them, and ensure they faced the consequences of their betrayal. Sarah Miller stood in the living room of her upscale Chicago condo, the floor-to-ceiling windows framing the glittering skyline where the Willis Tower stood like a sentinel against the dusk. The scent of Lake Michigan drifted through an open balcony door, mingling with the faint lavender of her favorite candle. She'd just sent Emily Carter packing with a trash bag of Michael Thompson's belongings, each item a reminder of the life she'd funded for a man who never loved her. Reborn on the day of the kidney match results at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, Sarah was no longer the naive tech mogul who'd given her kidney, her heart, and nearly her life to Michael. Her past life's betrayal. Michael's affair with Emily, his mother, Linda's greed, and their murder of her with peanuts had forged a new Sarah, one driven by clarity and vengeance. In her previous life, Sarah had met Michael at a charity gala 5 years ago, his charm disarming her. Her wealth from her e-commerce analytics startup had bankrolled his dreams from art supplies to medical bills as she believed in their shared future. When his kidney failure demanded a transplant, she'd donated without hesitation, enduring surgery, only to face mockery. "You think donating a kidney means we owe you?" Their ultimate betrayal. Killing her to claim her millions had been undone by her rebirth, a mysterious gift of her unyielding will. Now she held a recording of Michael and Emily's scheme: get her kidney, marry her, then divorce her for half her fortune. That evidence saved to her cloud drive was her first weapon. Sarah's refusal to donate had shaken Michael's admission. "I don't love you, I was after your money," confirmed past life's truths. Emily's envy, rooted in years of watching Sarah's success eclipse her freelance photography career, had turned her into a traitor. Linda's tearful gratitude had masked her greed. Sarah's parents, retired teachers in Naperville, had warned her about Michael, but she'd ignored them. This time she'd listened, starting with reclaiming her life. Her loyal housekeeper, Maria, emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. "Everything's packed, Miss Sarah," she said, gesturing to the trash bag by the door. "I set aside the usable stuff for the shelter, like you asked." Maria's warm eyes held a knowing glint. She'd never trusted Michael, often muttering about his freeloading ways when Sarah wasn't listening. "Thank you, Maria," Sarah said, her voice soft but firm. "You've always had my back." Maria smiled. "Someone's got to look out for you, especially after that snake." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. She'd already contacted her lawyer, Rachel, to secure her assets and investigate Michael, Emily, and Linda. Now she needed to sever every tie to her betrayers. She sat at her glass desk, pulling up her bank accounts. Michael's dialysis payments, which she'd been covering, were the first to go. She logged into the hospital's payment portal and canceled the recurring transfer, her fingers steady despite guilt. She'd paid for everything in her past life, believing it was love. Now she saw it as manipulation. Her phone buzzed a voicemail from her mother, Ellen, in Naperville. "Sarah, we're worried about you. Call us, please." Sarah's heart ached. In her past life, she'd distanced herself from her parents, consumed by Michael's needs. She dialed their number, and her mother's warm and familiar voice answered. "Sarah, thank goodness. Are you okay?" Sarah took a deep breath. "I'm leaving Michael, Mom. I'll explain soon, but I'm coming to visit tomorrow." Ellen's relief was palpable. "We're here for you always." As Sarah hung up, a knock interrupted her thoughts. She opened the door to find Emily again, her face a mask of fake concern. "Sarah, you can't do this to Michael," she pleaded, stepping inside. "He's sorry for what he said. He's just scared." Sarah's jaw tightened. She remembered Emily's role in her murder, her sneer as she smeared peanut butter. "Emily, I told you we're done," Sarah said, her voice cold. "Take his stuff and go." Emily's eyes narrowed, but she tried another tack, pulling out her phone. "Listen to this. Michael recorded it after you left the hospital." The audio played Michael's voice, soft and pained, saying, "I don't want Sarah to suffer. I'd rather die than let her lose a kidney." Sarah recognized the lie, the same manipulation from her past life. She snatched Emily's phone, deleted the recording, and thrust it back. "Please don't play games with me. We're not friends anymore." Emily's face twisted, her envy breaking through. "You think you're perfect with your money and ideal life. Michael deserves better." Sarah pointed to the door. "Take the bag and get out." Emily grabbed the trash bag, muttering, "You'll regret this," before storming off. Sarah locked the door, her pulse racing. She'd cut Michael and Emily out, but knew they'd fight back. She was ready. Sarah Miller woke to the Chicago sunrise, painting her condo in hues of gold, the Lake Michigan horizon shimmering with promise. 2 weeks had passed since she'd refused to donate her kidney to Michael Thompson, torn up the surgery application, and ended their relationship. Her rebirth, sparked by her unyielding will after her murder in her past life, had given her a second chance to escape the betrayal of Michael, his mother Linda, and her former best friend Emily Carter. The recording of their scheme, captured at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, was her ace, Michael and Emily, plotting to use her kidney and wealth, then divorce her, for millions. Now Sarah was building her defenses, ready to turn their manipulation against them. In her past life, Sarah had been a fool for love. Her tech startup, a leader in e-commerce analytics, had made her a multimillionaire, funding Michael's lifestyle as she believed in their shared future. His kidney failure had led her to donate enduring surgery, only to face mockery from Michael and Linda. "You think donating a kidney means we owe you?" Emily, envious of Sarah's success, had joined their plot, culminating in Sarah's murder by peanut allergy. Reborn. Sarah saw their true natures: Michael's greed, Emily's jealousy, Linda's deceit. Her parents' warnings, ignored before now, guided her. Sarah had spent the past 2 weeks fortifying her position. She'd stopped Michael's dialysis payments, a decision that felt both justified and heavy. Rachel's lawyer had secured her assets, freezing joint accounts that Michael once accessed. Rachel's investigation into Michael, Linda, and Emily had uncovered debts and shady connections, hinting at their desperation. Sarah had also reconnected with her parents in Naperville, spending a weekend with them, their warmth a reminder of the life she'd neglected. "We always knew he wasn't right for you," her father Robert had said, hugging her tightly. Now, as Sarah sipped coffee in her condo, the intercom buzzed. Maria, her housekeeper, answered, her voice tense. "Miss Sarah, it's Michael, his mother, and Emily. They're demanding to come up." Sarah's heart quickened, but she was prepared. "Let them in, Maria, but stay in your room. I'll handle this." Maria hesitated, then nodded, retreating as the elevator dinged. Michael stormed in, his face pale from illness, but his eyes burning with anger. Linda followed, her gray hair disheveled, her hands clenched. Emily trailed behind, her expression a mix of smugness and nerves. "What the hell?" Sarah Michael snapped, slamming a fist on her glass dining table. "You tore up my surgery application? You think you can walk away?" Linda's voice was shrill. "You've been his girlfriend for years, practically his wife. Saving him is your duty. Who do you think you are saying no?" Sarah stood calmly, her arms crossed. She remembered their past life's cruelty, their laughter as she died. "We're over, Michael. I'm not donating. You made it clear you don't love me." Emily stepped forward, her voice syrupy. "Sarah, you're just scared. You're worried Michael won't want you with one kidney. If he proposes, will you reconsider?" Sarah's eyes narrowed. Emily's manipulation was familiar, a tactic to guilt her into compliance. Nice try, Emily, Sarah said. I'm not falling for it. We're done romantically and as friends. Linda's face reddened. You ungrateful brat, I've treated you like family, and this is how you repay us. Name your price, what do you want to donate? Sarah laughed a sharp, humorless sound. You think this is about money? I have plenty. I'm not risking my health for someone who used me. Michael's composure cracked a flicker of panic in his eyes. You're making a mistake, Sarah. I didn't mean what I said at the hospital. I was upset. Sarah shook her head. You said you were after my money. I believe you. Get out, all of you. She pointed to the door, her voice steady. Linda lunged forward as if to grab her, but Sarah stepped aside, letting Linda stumble. Don't touch me, Sarah warned. Emily grabbed Linda's arm, whispering, Let's go. She's not worth it. Michael lingered his gaze, pleading, but Sarah met it with ice. Leave or I'll call security. The trio retreated, their footsteps echoing in the hall. Sarah locked the door, her pulse racing but her resolve unshaken. She knew this wasn't the end. Michael's panic meant they'd try again, likely with a bigger scheme. She opened her laptop, replaying the hospital recording. Get her kidney, marry her, then divorce her for half her money. Sarah smiled coldly. They thought they could break her, but she was building a trap. Her wealth, wit, and evidence would ensure they faced justice. She dialed Rachel. They just left. Be ready, they're desperate now. Sarah Miller stood on the balcony of her Chicago condo, the morning sun casting golden rays across Lake Michigan, its waves glinting like the resolve in her heart. 2 weeks had passed since she'd faced Michael Thompson, his mother Linda, and her former best friend Emily Carter in her living room, their desperate ambush failing to sway her. Reborn, on the day of Michael's kidney match results, Sarah had refused to donate her kidney, armed with the truth of their betrayal from her past life. In that life, she'd given Michael her kidney, married him, and been murdered by the trio, Michael, Linda, and Emily, for her millions, her peanut allergy, their weapon. Her rebirth, sparked by an unyielding will to fight back, had given her a second chance to dismantle their scheme. Sarah's past life had been a lesson in naivety. She'd met Michael at a charity gala 5 years ago, his charm blinding her to his greed. Her tech startup, a powerhouse in e-commerce analytics, had made her a multimillionaire, funding Michael's lifestyle as she believed in their love. When his kidney failure demanded a transplant, she'd donated, enduring surgery only to face mockery. You think donating a kidney means we owe you? Their murder plot, using her allergy to claim her wealth, had ended her first life. Now, with a hospital recording of Michael and Emily plotting to marry and divorce her for her fortune, Sarah was ready to turn their manipulation against them. The past 2 weeks had been a whirlwind of preparation. Sarah had stopped Michael's dialysis payments, a move that stung but felt just given his betrayal. Her lawyer Rachel had fortified her assets and uncovered Michael's debts and Linda's shady financial ties. Sarah had reconnected with her parents in Naperville, and their support grounded her. Maria, her loyal housekeeper, had become her confidant, cheering her decision to cut Michael out. But Sarah knew the trio wouldn't give up. Their living room confrontation had shown their desperation, and she anticipated a bigger move. As Sarah sipped her coffee, the intercom buzzed. Maria's voice crackled through. Miss Sarah, there's a crowd outside, reporters' cameras, and those 3 snakes. Sarah's pulse quickened, but she'd prepared for this. She'd learned from her past life that Michael and Linda had used public opinion to pressure her, and she'd anticipated their next play. Let them up, Maria, she said, her voice steady. Stay in your room, I've got this. The elevator dinged, and Michael, Linda, and Emily burst onto her doorstep, followed by a swarm of reporters from local Chicago stations, WGN, ABC7, and even a freelance blogger with a handheld camera. Linda dropped to her knees, tears streaming, a performance worthy of an Oscar. Sarah, please save my son, she wailed, pulling a stack of cash and bank cards from her coat. Take everything, donate your kidney. Emily sniffled dramatically, facing the cameras. We're not trying to guilt anyone. Sarah and Michael were so in love, planning to get married. But when he got sick, she changed. Michael raised his head, a single tear rolling down his pale face. Sarah insisted on getting tested, even when I begged her not to. She filed the surgery papers, then demanded my mom give her all our money and be her maid. I can't let my mom suffer, but I don't want to die. The reporters murmured, cameras flashing, painting Sarah as the villain. Sarah's heart raced, but she kept her composure. Their setup was clever. If she refused to donate, she'd look heartless. If she asked for money, she'd seem greedy. She remembered their past life's media ambush, how she'd crumbled under pressure. Not this time. She'd spent days consulting Rachel and a private investigator who'd uncovered a bombshell. Linda and Emily had tested as kidney matches at a different hospital with 5 and 6 point scores better than Sarah's 4. They'd hidden it to manipulate her. Sarah sighed, helping Linda to her feet with a troubled look. "Auntie, please, no drama." She turned to the cameras, her voice calm but firm. "I live in a high-end condo, not a mansion, but I'm not hurting for money." She snatched Linda's bank book, flipping it open to reveal $15,000. "This wouldn't tempt me, my handbag costs more." The reporters chuckled, and Linda's face twisted in embarrassment. "Linda, you know why I'm not donating?" Sarah continued, her eyes locking on the cameras. "My health isn't perfect, I'm not cleared for surgery. But here's something you didn't expect." She paused, letting the tension build. "Linda and Emily are matches too, 5 and 6 points better than mine. I stepped back because I thought they'd want to help Michael. Isn't that wonderful?" The reporters gasped, turning their cameras on Linda and Emily, whose faces froze. Linda stammered, "That's not true." But Emily's silence was damning. A reporter from ABC7 spoke up. "You mean they could donate but didn't? And they're pressuring her." Another shouted, "This is moral blackmail." The crowd turned hostile, cameras clicking as Linda and Emily shrank back. Michael, caught off guard, tried to interject, but that's not the point. But the reporters ignored him, berating the trio for their hypocrisy. Sarah stood tall, her heart pounding with triumph. She said, "I've always cared for Michael," her voice breaking just enough to seem sincere. "But I respect their choice to step up." The reporters nodded, one muttering, "Good thing you saw through them, Miss Miller." Linda, Emily, and Michael fled, dragging each other out as the cameras followed, capturing their humiliation. Sarah closed the door, her hands trembling but her resolve stronger than ever. She'd turned their weapon public opinion against them, but she knew they'd retaliate. She called Rachel. "It worked. They're exposed. Keep digging. They'll try something desperate next." The Chicago skyline glowed outside, a testament to her victory, but Sarah knew the war wasn't over. Sarah Miller sat at her glass desk, the Chicago skyline, a tapestry of lights beyond her condo's windows. The public exposure of Michael Thompson, Linda, and Emily Carter had shifted the narrative. Chicago's media now painted Sarah as the wronged heroine, while the trio's hypocrisy was headline news. Reborn, after their murder of her in her past life, Sarah had used her hospital recording of their scheme, marry her divorce, her for her millions, and her revelation of Linda and Emily's kidney match results to dismantle their plan. But she knew their desperation would push them to new lows, and she was ready to strike. In her past life, Sarah had been a fool for love. Her tech startup success had funded Michael's lifestyle, from his art projects to his medical bills. She'd donated her kidney to save him, only to face betrayal, Michael's affair with Emily, Linda's greed, and their murder plot using her peanut allergy. Her rebirth, a gift of her unyielding will, had given her a second chance. She'd refused to donate, cut Michael off financially, and reconnected with her parents in Naperville, their support grounding her. Maria, her housekeeper, and Rachel, her lawyer, were her allies, bolstering her resolve. The media frenzy had forced Michael, Linda, and Emily into hiding, but Sarah's private investigator had tracked their moves. Rachel's report confirmed Michael's mounting debts, and Linda's attempts to liquidate assets. Emily, pregnant with Michael's child, a secret Sarah had deduced from her past life's timeline, was their new leverage. Sarah anticipated they'd try to trap her again, likely with violence or coercion, as they had in her past life when they killed her. As Sarah reviewed Rachel's latest findings one evening, the intercom buzzed. Maria's voice was tense. "It's Michael alone. He looks angry." Sarah's heart quickened, but she'd prepared for this. "Let him up, Maria. Stay in your room." She activated the condo's security cameras linked to Rachel's office and slipped her phone into her pocket, ready to record. Michael stormed in, his face pale from illness, his eyes blazing. "Are you insane, Sarah? You stopped my dialysis payments. You know I need them to live." He paced, his hands shaking. "My mom and Emily were wrong to hide their match results, but I had nothing to do with it." "Why punish me?" Sarah stood calmly, her arms crossed. "It's my money, Michael. I paid for your treatments out of love, but you admitted you used me. Your mom has $15,000, use that." She remembered her past life when she'd funded everything believing it was love. Now she saw his manipulation clearly. Michael's voice cracked, desperation breaking through. "That's my mom's retirement savings. The treatments are nothing to you. Why won't you help? I was always good to you. Everyone said you weren't worthy of me, but I defended you." Sarah laughed, a sharp sound. "Worthy of you? I built a tech empire while you leeched off me. I'm done falling for your guilt trips." Michael dropped to his knees, clinging to her leg, tears streaming. "Sarah, you're not heartless. I know you. You'd never let me die. I said those things to protect you from the surgery's pain. Please help me." Sarah's eyes narrowed. Your mom and Emily are matches. Why not them? Michael hesitated, then stammered. My mom's too old, and Emily. We're not that close. You're the one I love. Sarah shook her head, her voice cold. I'm not donating, Michael. You made your choice. His face twisted in disbelief. Why you were ready to donate before even after I said those things. What changed? Sarah paused, her mind racing. She'd learned from her past life that Emily was pregnant, a detail she'd use later. For now, she needed to push him further. I was willing, she said, until I realized you'd use my sacrifice to trap me. I'm not your pawn anymore. Michael's desperation turned to anger. You're a monster, Sarah. You'll regret this. He stormed out, leaving Sarah shaken but resolute. She checked her phone. The confrontation was recorded, another piece of evidence. Days later, Sarah's investigator reported a chilling development. Emily had died in a fall during her honeymoon with Michael, who'd married her in a rushed ceremony. Michael received her kidney, and the police ruled it an accident. Sarah's blood ran cold. She remembered her past life, Emily's pregnancy, Michael's willingness to kill for her wealth. She suspected he'd orchestrated Emily's death for her kidney just as he'd killed Sarah. She called Rachel. Get this to the police, my hospital recording Michael's debts, everything. He's a murderer. Sarah sat back, and the Chicago skyline reminded her of her power. She'd lost Emily's friendship, but she'd gained justice. Michael thought he'd won, but Sarah's trap was closing. Her wealth, evidence, and will would ensure he faced the consequences of his crimes. Sarah Miller stood in the sleek living room of her Chicago condo, the city skyline a mosaic of lights beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, Lake Michigan's dark expanse reflecting her steely resolve. Weeks had passed since she'd publicly humiliated Michael Thompson, his mother Linda, and her former best friend Emily Carter, exposing their hypocrisy as kidney donor matches. Reborn after their murder of her in her past life, killed with peanuts to exploit her allergy for her millions. Sarah had turned their manipulation against them. Her hospital recording of Michael and Emily's scheme to marry and divorce her for her wealth, and her revelation that Linda and Emily were better matches, had shifted Chicago's media in her favor. But the news of Emily's death in a suspicious fall during her honeymoon with Michael, followed by his transplant with her kidney, confirmed Sarah's fears Michael was a murderer, and she was ready to end him. In her past life, Sarah had been blinded by love. Her tech startup, a leader in e-commerce analytics, had made her a multimillionaire, funding Michael's lifestyle as she believed in their future. She'd donated her kidney to save him, only to face betrayal, Michael's affair with Emily, Linda's greed, and their plot to kill her. Her rebirth, a gift of her unyielding will, had given her a second chance. She'd refused to donate, cut Michael off financially, and reconnected with her parents in Naperville, their support grounding her. Maria, her housekeeper, and Rachel, her lawyer, were her allies, bolstering her plan. Rachel's investigation had uncovered Michael's debts and Linda's shady dealings, and Sarah's tip to the police about Emily's death had set the stage for her final trap. Sarah had anticipated Michael's next move. His confrontation weeks ago, begging for her help after she stopped his dialysis payments, had been desperate but predictable. His marriage to Emily, followed by her accidental death, mirrored the ruthlessness of her past life's murder. Sarah had provided the police with her hospital recording, and Rachel's findings suspecting Michael had killed Emily for her kidney. As she checked her condo's security cameras, the intercom buzzed. Maria's voice was tense. Miss Sarah, it's Michael and Linda. They look dangerous. Sarah's heart quickened, but she was prepared. Let them up, Maria. Stay safe in your room. She activated the cameras linked to Rachel's office and the police and slipped her phone into her pocket, set to record. The elevator dinged, and Michael and Linda stormed in, their faces twisted with rage. Michael healthier now, with Emily's kidney loomed over her, his once charming eyes cold. You heard about Emily, didn't you? He sneered. This is your fault, Sarah. If you'd donated, I wouldn't have had to kill my wife and child. Sarah's blood ran cold, but she stood firm, her voice calm. You're admitting it, Michael. You killed Emily for her kidney, just like you killed me in my past life. Linda laughed, a harsh sound. Past life? You're delusional. Hand over your money, marry Michael, and shut your mouth or we'll feed you peanuts again. She pulled a bag of peanuts from her coat, her intent clear. Sarah's heart raced, but she'd prepared for this. In her past life, they'd exploited her allergy without resistance. Now she'd turned her condo into a fortress. You think I'd let you in without a plan? She said, stepping back. Smile for the cameras. Michael's eyes darted to the room's corners where tiny lenses blinked. Linda's face paled. "You're bluffing," she spat, but her voice wavered. Before they could act, the main bedroom door burst open and a swarm of Chicago PD officers flooded in, guns drawn. "Michael Thompson, Linda Thompson, you're under arrest for the murder of Emily Carter." An officer barked, cuffing them as they struggled. Michael screamed, "Sarah, you set us up!" Linda cursed her venomous words, drowned by the officer's commands. Sarah watched her pulse steady as they were dragged away. At the precinct, Sarah met with Detective Alvarez, who'd taken her tip seriously. "Your recording from the hospital was key," he said. "It showed their motive. We also found inconsistencies in Emily's autopsy bruising, suggesting a push, not a fall. Your cameras caught their confession tonight." Sarah nodded, revealing her final card. "I also have this." She played a fabricated AI-generated video created by a tech contact showing Emily confronting Michael about their plan. Though fake, it was convincing, sealing their fate. In court, the evidence was overwhelming, the hospital recording, financial records, the autopsy, and the condo confession. Michael and Linda were convicted of murder and sentenced to death. Sarah sat in the gallery, her parents beside her, their hands warm in hers. She'd protected herself, avenged Emily, and reclaimed her life. As the gavel fell, she felt a weight lift, but one final step remained to ensure Michael died knowing he'd lost. Sarah Miller walked through the sterile halls of the Illinois State Prison, her footsteps echoing with purpose. The Chicago skyline, visible through a distant window, glowed with the promise of a new dawn. Months had passed since Michael Thompson and his mother Linda were convicted for Emily Carter's murder, their death sentences a testament to Sarah's calculated revenge. Reborn after their betrayal in her past life, murdered with peanuts to claim her millions, Sarah had dismantled their scheme, with her hospital recording her revelation of their kidney matches and a final trap in her condo. Now she was here to deliver one last blow to ensure Michael died in despair. In her past life, Sarah had been a fool for love. Her tech startup's success had funded Michael's lifestyle, from his graphic design projects to his medical bills. She'd donated her kidney to save him, only to face his affair with Emily, Linda's greed, and their murder plot. Her rebirth, a gift of her unyielding will, had given her a second chance. She'd refused to donate, exposed their hypocrisy, and used her wealth and wit to trap them. Her parents in Naperville, her housekeeper Maria and her lawyer Rachel, had been her anchors, supporting her through every step. Sarah had visited her parents after the trial, and their Naperville home was a haven of warmth. Over coffee, her mother Ellen had hugged her tightly. "You're stronger than we ever knew," she'd said. Her father Robert had nodded, proud. Maria celebrated with her, baking her favorite lemon bars, while Rachel ensured Sarah's assets were secure, her empire untouchable. The media hailed Sarah as a survivor, her story of overcoming betrayal inspiring Chicago and beyond. In the prison's visitor room, Sarah faced Michael across a glass partition. His face was gaunt, his kidney disease relapsing despite Emily's transplant. His eyes, once charming, burned with rage. "Why, Sarah," he rasped. "I wanted to marry you. You destroyed me." Sarah leaned forward, her voice cold but steady. "Let's skip the lies, Michael. I came to tell you the truth. Emily never confronted me about your plan. That surveillance footage was AI-generated, paid for by a tech friend. But your hospital confession was genuine. I recorded it outside the room. I wanted you to die, knowing you lost everything." Michael's face contorted, his fists pounding the glass. "You monster!" he screamed, guards rushing to restrain him. Sarah stood unfazed. "You killed me once, Michael. You killed Emily. This is justice." She checked her watch, a small smile playing on her lips. "Time's up. I'm off to travel the world. Thanks to Emily's organs, others live. You're done." She walked away, his curses fading behind her. 2 days later, Rachel called. Michael's body had given out his relapse, claiming him before the execution. Linda, convicted alongside him, faced her own fate, the peanuts of justice served. Sarah's revenge was complete, her wealth now funding a new life. She boarded a plane to Paris, her parents joining her for a European adventure, their laughter a balm to her soul. Sarah stood on a balcony overlooking the Seine, the Eiffel Tower aglow in Paris. Her startup thrived under her team's care, her bank account flush with new investments. She thought of her past life, of the naive woman who'd loved unquestioningly. That Sarah was gone, replaced by a survivor who'd turned betrayal into triumph. She raised a glass of champagne, toasting her parents, her freedom, and her reclaimed life. Chicago, with its glittering skyline, would always be home, but the world was hers now, and she'd live it on her terms.